Consider myself duly reminded, last count Corlaig, or my God. Taoiseach, next week, Aer Lingus pilots will begin industrial action, starting with an indefinite work to rule. This industrial action has the overwhelming support of the pilots in both of the ballots that they conducted, and there is no doubt in their resolve in this matter. Aer Lingus have stated that this will cause significant disruption to their operations. For their part, the pilots say management keep insisting that pilots must sell their working conditions in exchange for any increase in pay. We are absolutely not prepared to do that, especially when Aer Lingus is making enormous profits. Now, Taoiseach, the facts bear this out. Aer Lingus profits increased by 400% last year. Aer Lingus management and IALPA, the pilots' union, must re-engage, get back around the negotiating table and hammer out a deal. This is the only way that this dispute will be resolved. We are less than a week away from the start of the industrial action, so there is time to reach a resolution, but time is running out and every day lost brings the likelihood of industrial action closer. We cannot underestimate the impact that the uncertainty is having, particularly for those considering travelling to Ireland for a holiday this summer. The government do have a role to play here. Taoiseach, I have some experience of industrial relations and I understand well that we will not resolve this dispute here on the floor of the Dáil. But I also know when a high-level intervention is required, and this is one of those times. Aer Lingus and the routes that they serve are of significant national importance for business and leisure travellers alike. For connectivity, tourism and, more importantly, at this time of the year, for the tens of thousands of workers and families who have saved hard for their annual holiday and who are worried sick that they won't be able to travel. 2 years ago, there was chaos in Dublin Airport. This is still fresh in people's minds. The reputational damage done by that chaos should not be underestimated, and the hands-off approach from government at the time meant the chaos continued for too long. This morning on the radio, we heard from business owners in the tourism sector who are extremely concerned about the impact of this potential industrial action as they see their bookings slow down and they brace themselves for cancellations. The tourism sector is still recovering from the pandemic, and all of those involved, business owners, workers in bed and breakfasts, hotels, restaurants and the experience economy, need a good season this year. So I'm calling on you to intervene. As reported this morning, the state's industrial relations mechanisms believe that the sides are too far apart to engage in trying to seek a resolution to the dispute at this time. It is therefore incumbent on government to do so. Given the seriousness of this dispute for families and for the wider economy, there is a need for the Minister for Enterprise and the Minister for Transport to engage in a constructive manner to get all sides around the table now. Every influence needs to be brought to bear to turn things around and ensure a successful outcome. The key is to get both parties back around the table with meaningful objectives and a willingness to strike an agreement. Industrial action is not in anybody's interests. Taoiseach, you know what it's like for so many families. You put your deposit down at Christmas time and then you spend the next couple of months either saving up or paying off week by week or month by month, and you're looking forward to your holiday. People are working hard. They're under enough pressure. They want to know that with certainty that they're going to be able to go on the holiday that they have saved hard to be able to afford. So, Taoiseach, I want to ask you, what does the government propose to do to avert the industrial action scheduled by Aer Lingus pilots next week? This is far too serious to look away.
Chun fáilte ribh an tachta socht an ceis seo ardú agus is dochreta go méigstalc an tachtan seo chuing agus iarm Aer Lingus agus IALPA tachla céile tá sé práineach go méid cainteanna siúlanis idir IALPA agus Aer Lingus agus gach agus tá dúlgus orthu gach éon iirecht a dhéanamh chun an aibh seo a réiteach coilúthe is féidir tá forfar agus tá déanra agus muintear na tíre seo ag bra réiteach na faibe seo. Thank you for raising what is an extremely important issue. And there is no question but that thousands of workers and thousands of families who have saved up for their holidays, who are looking forward to their holidays, are now facing acute anxiety as to whether or not they'll be able to get flights next week. And there is an obligation on all sides to get to the table as quickly as possible to resolve this issue. And we know the impact will be extremely disruptive if industrial action of any kind takes place in the context of this dispute. And thousands of people will have their lives disrupted. And in addition to that, the domestic economy will also suffer. Jobs will suffer. Many small companies, businesses, retail, hospitality will suffer if tourists are not facilitated in arriving into the country because of a dramatic reduction in flights. Air connectivity is key to an island nation. Air connectivity is the lifeblood of an island nation. And that is why every effort must be made to resolve this. And it is vital that both parties to this dispute act responsibly, re-engage, as recommended by the Labour Court. And you have experience in industrial relations. The Labour Court has recommended that both sides would re-engage in order to allay any doubts around the travel plans of thousands of our people. And we have a sophisticated industrial relations system in this country. The Workplace Relations Commission, the Labour Court remain available to the parties to facilitate engagement. And that is the framework, ultimately, within which this matter can be resolved. And and I don't want to get into the area, like air passengers have strong consumer rights under EU Regulation 261/2004, but we don't want to go there. We want this dispute resolved, and that's the key issue here. And I know that IALPA has served notice on Aer Lingus of an indefinite work to rule, commencing from next Wednesday, the 26th of June. There has been ongoing discussions and negotiations for quite a number of months. As you know, the Independent Pilot Pay Tribunal in December 2023 made its determination of a 12.25% increase in consolidated pay and 1.5% rise in unconsolidated pay, but that did involve the crewing, the cost of the 2019 crewing agreement as well. And then the dispute moved on to the Workplace Relations Commission. Talks taking place over a number of days in February. No agreement was reached. It then went to the Labour Court in April. The Labour Court recommended that pilots receive an interim pay deal of 9.25%, including retroactive pay increases from January the 1st, 2023, July 1st, 2023, October the 1st, and January, and that the parties re-engage with the assistance of the WRC on other matters. Now, I think within that framework, to me, there has to be room for that re-engagement to see can we build on what has transpired already within the industrial relations machinery. And I would urge both parties to re-engage as a matter of urgency.
Louise O'Reilly.
Taoiseach, the response of government cannot be just to list the history of this dispute. We know what has happened. We know how many times it's been to third parties, but the dispute is not resolved. And the pilots are ready to take industrial action. And people who have worked hard and paid for their holidays are now facing the prospect of, as you said now, about their consumer rights. But it shouldn't get to that. They shouldn't have to be telling their kids, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to go away. So I asked you, Taoiseach, very directly, what are government prepared to do? And the answer I got was that government are prepared to just list off what has happened and take a hands-off approach. Taoiseach, as I said, I have some experience of industrial relations. I understand politicians on the floor of the Dáil will not resolve this dispute. However, there are occasions where a high-level intervention is not just necessary, but absolutely essential. And this is one of those occasions. People work hard, Taoiseach. They need to know that they will be able to go on the holidays that they have paid for. You know, the holidays are 2 weeks. You work for the rest of the year. People want to be able to get away. They want to know what you, as the Deputy Head of Government, is prepared to do to help them.
You said it yourself. This dispute cannot be resolved on the floor of this House. And you invoked your own experiences in industrial relations. So I'm not going to play politics with this on the floor of the House. I agree 100% that this is incredibly disruptive to many families. It's creating unacceptable anxiety to many, many families through the chair, and it needs to be resolved. But the Deputy, given the Deputy's experience in industrial relations, knows full well that the only way that this will get resolved is either in the WRC or in the Labour Court, but essentially it has to be resolved within the industrial relations machinery. Deputy knows that, I know that, most people in this House know that, and I would urge both sides now, in the interests of the people of this country, to get around the table and to hammer out a resolution to this issue. That's the only way that this can be done. And you know that, Deputy, and I know that. And, you know, you've identified the challenges just as I have identified the challenges. That actually isn't much of a difference in what we've both said. No, but you haven't asked anything. You haven't, through the chair, asked anything specific other than identify the problem, but not really come up with a specific solution. Other than, whatever that means. But sure, whatever does that mean, Deputy? Come off it. The only effective intervention is the industrial relations machinery, and it should. That is key.